Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm Angela Yee, and Jasmine from thejasminebrand.com is here.
Yes.
And we have Chairwoman Tremaine Wright. Can I call you that?
Yes, indeed you can.
Okay. All right. Now, this is an important thing, and I know you guys are going to be so excited to get some really valuable information. But Chairwoman Tremaine Wright is the chair for the State Cannabis Control Board.
Yes, ma'am. We are here in New York. We're trying to roll out legalized cannabis. We're working on regulations and putting the rules together so the people that want licenses or to open businesses or even just to purchase something that they can reliably trust has been tested and grown here in the state. We're doing all of that now.
All right. And whoever would have thought this day would come?
Were you surprised?
We've been working on it for a while. So we've been working on it for a while. I'm going to tell you what the surprise is probably for me is that we really did get a lot of things that we were hoping for. We have found a way to have access points for a lot of people to enter into this marketplace. And we have found a way to make sure that we're prioritizing people who were harmed by the prohibition of cannabis. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's really what the surprise is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money involved in this. And so there was probably an inkling that we were going to get here and somebody was going to take advantage of it, but that we've actually found a way in New York State to make sure that the average person has an opportunity. I think that's what a little bit of the surprise and the joy is.
Yeah, and not just the average person. I mean, statistically, 93% of marijuana arrests were Black and Hispanic people, right? Even though we're clearly not 93% of the population, and everyone, I feel like,
they all use it.
Yeah.
Everybody uses it at equal rates.
So how do we ensure that this does, because we were most affected by it as far as having to go to jail, pay fines, and different things like that. And sometimes I've heard people say capital has been a huge obstacle for people to be able to even partake in this. So how and what things are happening to make sure that we can?
So I'm going to say that I think the first thing is that the law that passed has a two-tiered system. So what we've done is we've broken up the market. We've said that you cannot have a license to do everything from grow to sale. Mm-hmm. We've said you can either be a grower and processor and do distribution, or you can operate on the other side, which is the retail side, where you can sell directly to the public, host a consumption space, mm-hmm. or do personal delivery.
Okay.
So, and you can't hold licenses
do it all.
You can't do all. You can only have one license.
There you go.
Gotcha.
You can only have one license. I'm sorry, you can have multiple licenses, but it can only be in one part of the
state?
trade. So you can be in retail,
Okay.
which is those three licenses.
Or you can grow.
Or you can be in
grower.
the production, which is the cultivation, processing, and distribution.
Okay.
And you just got to pick the side. So nobody can dominate the market.
And to be clear, right, retail is a hard business, period. You know,
Selling
just
anything.
trust me, I know. Like having a brick and mortar location, having employees, making sure your people that work there aren't stealing, making sure that people from the outside aren't stealing. So what are the rules? Okay, let's talk about this. Because I think the first thing people think is I want to own a dispensary. But that is very costly, you know, to be able to do that, because it's not. What are some of the rules that are in place for people who own dispensaries or want to get a license for a dispensary?
So everyone in New York State currently who has a dispensary license is a conditional dispensary owner. And what we did in New York State so that we can get it up and running quickly is our legislatures came back and they created the conditional program for this state. It's called Seeding Opportunity. We took hemp farmers and gave them conditional grow licenses as well as processing. And then we said people who were harmed by prohibition get the first dispensary licenses. Mm-hmm. So they have the conditional dispensaries. We currently have issued 215 of those licenses,
Yes.
8 of which went to not-for-profits. Mm-hmm. And we have about 15 stores open in the state currently.
Right.
And I know that's not a lot and it's not enough, but that's what we were doing to get them started. We have a social equity office, an office of social equity, and we have a cultivation mentorship program. We have an incubator program for dispensary owners, and we're developing what the rest of our equity program looks like. Additionally, we have a fund that was created by the state to offer our conditional dispensary licensees funding so that they can actually build out and
that's
open
the hard
their
part.
stores.
That is the hard part. Yeah. And what about even, let's just say, you know how with housing, they might say, okay, we're going to let you build these houses in this area, but a percentage has to be affordable housing or something has to go back to the community. And so for some people, because it's interesting to me to see some of these people who have been so against marijuana and now they're investing, right, in marijuana now that it's legal, and they're on the front lines trying to make sure that they take part in this business that clearly we can see from other states that have approved recreational marijuana way before us, how much that's added to the economy. But is there anything in place just to help with like people who were arrested before, been convicted for marijuana use or possession? Is there anything in place to make sure that like they have to give back or any type of nonprofit participation they have to do?
So built into our law is a mandate that 40% of all of the tax proceeds collected from cannabis must be reinvested back into communities that were disproportionately harmed during the prohibition.
Okay.
And that's going to be managed by the advisory board that's already been constituted here in our state. They get the opportunity to look at grant applications and then to distribute those funds. So since we just started sales, we have not actually distributed any grants, but we're starting to talk to local communities and say, hey, what would it look like for an investment in your community? What do you need money for? Sometimes it looks like a loan fund so that people can buy homes or open businesses. Sometimes it looks like rebuilding places that have been abandoned so that people can live there.
Right.
So we really have a lot of opportunity to decide what it looks like. But additionally, in our law, we always prioritize people who've been harmed and come from communities that have been harmed. So I think that's a really important factor because so long as we have legalization, we're going to need to do a little bit of, I don't like to use restitution because I think that sometimes it's restorative.
Okay.
But I don't like to, I like to keep it separate because I think that the conversation for restitution usually is focused on slavery in America, and I don't like to get us mixed up and think people can say like it's one and the same. This is really specific, and I think that we're doing some reconciliation and some restorative work here.
I'm not familiar with the process to actually get a license. What is the process? I mean, just in high level, you don't have to go detail, but what's the process of
So
getting?
we're still working on it, actually, and we just issued our second draft of the regulations about a week ago, and it is going to be an application form with very simple, requests of personal information, and we'll also ask you for your operating procedures so that we know that you know and understand how to keep your workers safe, your customers safe, the products clean and uncontaminated, so that it's a good experience for all New Yorkers, essentially. But it's an application process similar to what people do with the state liquor authority already.
Okay.
So
I'm in the
that they
process
know.
of that.
Yeah.
Getting my
And
liquor
is
license.
there certain areas that you can that people can do dispensaries in certain areas that you
Yep,
cannot?
the 200, 500 rule exists
Same
in
thing like the
cannabis.
liquor
Yep.
What is
Yeah.
that? Explain that for people that
So we do not want any dispensaries or consumption spaces to be located within 200 feet of a it's 200 for a religious institution and 500 feet from a school.
Okay.
So you got to make sure if this is what you want to do, make sure that you're even eligible based on location to be able to apply for that license.
And is that growing too? If we're growing too?
No, the grow is something different.
Yeah. You have to have a
And
farm.
Those are usually farms. It's going to be a lot of indoor grow, I'm sure.
Because I know
once we
I feel
go.
like some people do indoor, so I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, so currently we are only looking at the customer-facing businesses for those rules, but most of the grows will happen probably in more industrial spaces, which are usually secure and away from the public.
Now, what about all of these smoke shops that we see everywhere where you can go in and ask for some weed, but they're not licensed for that, right?
They're
and I
not
see
licensed.
them all over the place.
They're not real.
And then I also see people like this is more of an out of state, but you buy like a sticker and then you get like.
And that's illegal in New
Cannabis.
York State as well. So one, you do not get to trade cannabis for anything in New York State unless you have a license.
Okay.
And we have only distributed 200 licenses, and only 15 of them are operational at this moment.
So there's not a lot.
So
there
there's
you
only
go.
15 operation like legal
places to
places
purchase.
in the state.
However, they all get to deliver. So even if they are not in your neighborhood, you can call them up and get deliveries.
Okay.
So aside from that, these stores that we see popping up, we have recently had an enforcement bill that was passed by our state legislature. They have come to our rescue. They understood that we needed additional tools in the tool chest so that we can address it. Now we have the right to go in and to actually enforce against people who we have not licensed.
Okay.
So originally the law said you get to regulate the people you give licenses to. They realized all of this was popping up. It hasn't happened in any other state like this.
Yeah, it's
New York. I was going to say New York is different.
I've never seen so many smoke shops ever. Okay.
So now we can go in and enforce against them. We can seize product that is presented as cannabis, whether or not it's actually cannabis, because a lot of these products are laced with other things.
yeah, that's the danger
not
of it. You don't know what it
trustworthy.
is.
Yeah.
And the problem is that people will go there because it's less expensive than going to some place that is licensed.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm going to say the prices are not that different. So if you are considering making a purchase, please go to one of our licensed facilities because the product is, it has been tested.
Yeah.
It is sun-grown product. And I believe me here, y'all, it's been a good crop season. So we have good product
What
on the
defines a
shelves.
good crop season? Like if the weather's good for the growing, like what is the?
So the outcomes are good.
Okay. All right,
So
cool.
yeah, they may have had a tough season actually getting the product out to get the produce grown, but they've had tremendous produce. They are producing great products.
Okay.
And I think that if people actually go and just try it, they will realize that, you know what, I'm able to achieve the thing that I wanted with this product. And it could be a sensation of feeling. It can be a calming. It could be relief. It's something.
So I have back cramps, and so I lived in LA for years, and I would go to we have lots of dispensaries in LA, and I would go to get these drops that were really helpful.
Like a tincture.
Yes, and that was more like for a pain thing, but I also smoked too. But it was very good for like cramps and people that had cancer. We would all come to the same place and get, it was helpful. It was like medicine to us.
And so we've expanded our medical program. So if people do want to have some medical conversations and they want to have something a little bit more sophisticated, or if they need a product blend that's not available in adult use, it is available in our medical program. And that has been expanded.
It's
so
a real
any
thing,
healthcare,
though. Yeah, it's a real thing.
Absolutely.
And and
Help
people
you
do
sleep.
need it.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah.
I was going to say, a lot of people use it for well care.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of the conversation, one that we need to also make sure the rest of our community knows about. That it's not the conversation of marijuana of old. This is cannabis of tomorrow.
Now, what about CBD products and THC products? Because, I want to make sure that we also know, because I've seen that for a long time now, right? Even before things were being talked about and recreational adult marijuana use has been deemed legal here. But what about that? Like where we see
CBD is legal across the country.
Okay.
So you can use CBD. It can go interstate commerce. You can fly with it. You can mail it. You can use CBD all over, and it is legitimate. And all of the CBD sellers or retailers here in New York State, we just ask them to do an online retail registration. And it's a $250 annual registration so that we know that they're selling CBD products.
Okay.
But it is there. And again, huge for the wellness community.
Right.
It's something that we need. It's something that people are learning more about every day. And CBD is distinct and different from THC. However, the people that are going to be licensed to sell THC products will be able to also carry CBD products.
Okay. Because THC is a little different.
It is.
So is that legal across the
No,
nation?
it is
Okay.
not. And you cannot do interstate travel with it. And we cannot trade across state lines. So all of the products that are purchased in legal shops are grown in their home state, wherever that store is located. And that's part of what I'm saying. When we want to introduce people to what has been grown this past season,
Right.
we want them to come and taste what New York has to offer.
So in New York, in order to sell in New York and to get a license, you have to bring in the product from New York. It can't come from
you
out
can't
of
grow
the
it
state.
somewhere else. And
Nope.
okay.
No.
But New York State is big too. It's not just
That's
New York
right.
City. So you can be up in
Upstate.
Yeah,
Yes,
upstate
indeed.
growing.
We have farmers from the Hudson Valley going all the way west to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And so they all have got products, and many of their products are already on the shelves here in New York City.
Now,
So,
what happens if you
yeah.
get caught on a flight with some, you're leaving, you're at JFK, and you went to the dispensary that was legal, and oops, I didn't realize I couldn't bring this.
Then it's a federal issue because those are
She like it's beyond me.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah. It's beyond me.
yeah. I was gonna say you mentioned you hit the airport's property.
I have definitely accidentally flown with something before. Have you, Angela?
Not accidentally.
No, not. No, in LA is very.
Did it on purpose.
I've
That's
accidentally
right.
brought
I
like
feel like they don't make it
pre-rolls.
that big a deal.
They've never said anything, but it's always been.
I'm not
accident.
encouraging it,
No,
but
I'm not
just
either.
saying,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Don't.
I'm glad it was an accident.
Yeah.
Let's
You don't
not
have to
make
ingest
any
it anymore.
mistakes.
Yeah. No, but I
Let's not make
accidentally
too
had
many
it before.
mistakes.
Yeah. She like, I don't, it's beyond me at this point. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Because I don't want you to land in a state that's not so friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
We're
right.
friendly here.
That's it.
Clearly.
Now, when it comes to other businesses that you can get into that have to do with marijuana, because I always tell people there's a lot that you can do around that. You don't have to think about just being
A dispensary.
a dispensary, or you don't have to think about just growing. There's other things that you can do. Let's talk about other opportunities.
Wow. This is what excites me about cannabis, because I think that this is where we are going to see New York just take flight. This is where we're going to start to see the New York experience. Currently, we have one store that just opened, which is a home furnishing store. It's a cannabis retailer, but it is home furnishing, and it's an experience when you walk in. Why? Because how do you live your life with cannabis? When you want something that's going to revive you or make you feel relaxed, you want to see colors, you want to have sensations. That's what life is about. So how do I incorporate it into the business that I already do? I grow capacity for what I already do. That business, if I'm a cleaner, I want to clean the spaces that sell cannabis.
Right.
If I'm a marketer, I want to market your cannabis. If I do communications, I want to create the communications package that you're going to use for social media and for print. I want to make sure that we're growing the spaces that we are already in before we think about picking up something new. People that deal in that manage food businesses.
What about bakers
there's
and stuff?
I was going to
Yeah.
say they can do
My brother.
infusions and blends. I was going to say I was going to somebody's juice bar regularly up until my schedule didn't permit. And you can imagine juice being a space where it's juiced into
Or
the
coffee.
blend, into the coffee.
I would love
into
to have
the
it in
baked
some of
goods.
my butters and stuff that I use.
There you go.
Just
And
for like,
we have a whole host of wellness and beauty people who are already working on products. Like I was just at an expo here a few blocks away, and it was talking about how luxury is meeting cannabis, and it was all about products that are going to make your life better, things that are going to improve.
What has been your own personal experience?
So I'm going to say I'm not a smoker. I'm not really into cannabis. As for personal use, I'm definitely one of the people that uses it for wellness. Like I love a cream. I love paint. The CBD and THC rubs. I was running for a while. As I'm getting older and heavier, my body does not respond the same. I use that regularly. And so for me, that's really where I've sat. I've also used some of it to help us aid in sleeping.
Right. That's
And-
that's my thing.
yeah.
I'm gonna say
sleep.
largely those
Yeah.
tend to be more CBD blends.
Yes.
They might have
Yeah.
a little bit of THC in it, but also starting to know and understand what those blends are. I think that that's part of the learning process. But I'd like to believe myself to be as more of an herbalist. Like I like to know if I need a yarrow for something or if I need to have a cannabis for it. And I think that that's part of the education that most of us need.
Right.
Because we need to start to understand, what is this going to be useful for me? Like my brother uses it every single day.
Mine too.
And I don't think that he
Yeah, mine too.
I don't think
Yeah,
that
mine
he
too.
manages. He was able to manage
Yeah.
without it. But I think that we use it for sleep. We use it for anxiety. We
Yeah.
use it for pain. Sometimes we use it just so that we can have a sense of calm and ease. And I feel like all of it makes sense.
Some
We
use
just
it for
gotta figure
appetite.
out. Yep, for appetite. And we need it.
Now, when it comes to taxing, right, because I've heard a lot of people discuss in other markets just having recreational marijuana for sale, but then not realizing like how much they had to pay in taxes and pay for this and pay for that, pay for security. There's a lot of expenses that come with it, right, because people are also using it to boost the economy.
That's right.
Where you are. So what are some things that you would say to people who are getting into this business that they should be aware of?
I think that they all need to have a real business plan. And I don't mean a plan that somebody else wrote for them and told them, oh, here are some good numbers. I think that they need to sit down with their numbers and know and understand what is the interplay between, say, their rents, their insurances, their employee costs, the product cost,
'Cause you're
and what
gonna
is
need
in our
security.
and what's in my product
sure,
mix. Because when a crop goes bad and you're not able to get a certain product as a result of it, where are you going to make purchases, and where does it make sense to make purchases later on down the line? Those are that's how intimately people have to know their business.
Right.
And I don't think that a lot of folks are approaching it from that perspective.
They just
I
think
think that
they're
they
gonna
think
get
it's going to be
rich.
fun.
Yeah.
And as you just said, retail is not fun. So I need people to really realize that there are a lot of costs involved in doing business. And then they need to sit with their accountant so that they can know and understand after I've made money and I've paid my costs, how am I reporting my money? What should I be reporting, or how should I be spending the excess of my money so that it makes sense for the bottom line?
Or I should be smoking your own stuff. Stressed out.
Right.
Right. And just wondering what's next. And this can be our next, and we can really be growing some big, healthy businesses as a result.
So where do you see this, say, 5 years from now? Because I know you're looking, we talked about business plans. Part of that is also looking to the future and what things will look like. What do you predict?
So I like to think that in 10 years, we're going to see federal legalization. But I'd say in 5 years, what I'm thinking here in New York, we have a robust market by that time. And what I'm imagining is that we have started to define what a New York experience looks like with cannabis. I think that we're going to see a lot of consumption spaces, consumption licenses. And I think that we're going to start to define the same way we defined, say, the consumption of liquor and music with our club scene and everything. I think we're going to start to see something similar with that utilize cannabis.
Like coffee shops in Amsterdam.
Yes.
Because I've definitely been to some of those, and that's so long ago. You can't have liquor and...
we can't have liquor and cannabis in the same space.
You can't.
Okay.
However, there's a whole there are so many product lines at this moment that do sophisticated cocktails without any alcohol in it.
Okay.
So we can expand the way we're thinking about it, and we can think about what a cocktail means and what it means to have a drink.
Okay.
Just like one of my favorite places that sells, cannabis product, they actually only sell CBD, does infused yoga. Like, we're getting ready to experience the New York cannabis experience.
Because I know people who are like, I smoke, but I don't really drink like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
Some people usually do either or. They're not really into both of them.
Both of them is like, okay, you're going overboard.
Right.
Yeah. Let's not get too crazy now.
But all right, well, I'm glad that you came up here to get all of these things out, just because I know there's so many questions about it. And I do want to encourage people, if you're not in the position right now to be able to get a dispensary, there's other things, like you said, that you can do. You know, you can market. You can also come up with products that people can use.
Yes, indeed.
And like you said, a home goods store, which is really nice, CBD products, other different ways that you can be involved and profit off of this. Because you have to think, with dispensaries opening, if you have a delivery service, there's a way that you can also partake in delivery. If you do online, you know, that people are going to need all of those different services. And so it's a perfect time, if you're an entrepreneur, to come up with some ways to incorporate and take part in this business.
Yeah, I would just want to also encourage people, go to our website, cannabis.ny.gov. They can get information on our proposed regulations, any guidance that's available. If people want to talk to their kids about cannabis and try to develop what that language looks like, we have tools for parents on there as well. We're running a Why Buy Legal campaign. It'll help our communities that are concerned with the oversaturation of these smoke shops. How do they address it, and how do they educate one another so that people know what to look for, so that they're not going into these spaces, so that we can make sure that people are not getting sick?
Yeah, because there could be pesticides.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, all kinds of, you don't know what's in it. Like we said, you know, fentanyl was a big problem. It's still a problem. Yeah. So you just want to make sure you're going to places that are licensed. And you can see the list, right, of licensed dispensaries.
On cannabis.ny.gov, we have all of the information. We also have our board meetings that are streamed live. So if you want to watch and see what the deliberative process looks like for regulations, or if you're worried about someone's license that's coming before us, you get the opportunity to listen in.
Those meetings are no joke, guys. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chairwoman Tremaine Wright. We really appreciate it. We're going to keep on checking in with you if there's any big news or things happening, just because I like to go right to the source.
Thank you. And I'm available anytime.
Best eyes on.